Once again, back at you, Olo, with another video. Let me keep it coming, man. I gotta get this thing out. So what's going on, my people? It's a beautiful day. I was outside with my scooter again, enjoying the weather. Now it's time to work. So what's today's topic? Discipline. So what is discipline? It's the self-control that is gained by requiring that rules or orders be obeyed and the ability to keep working at something. So that's basically consistency, determination, and you just got to keep going. Keep going, whatever you're doing, whatever your purpose is, whatever your goals are, whatever your work is, you got to keep going. I make these videos for motivational purposes too, for myself too. So that's basically what discipline is. So now we're gonna get into the different categories of discipline. So 1, self-discipline refers to one's abilities to control one's behaviors and actions to achieve a goal or to maintain a certain standard of conduct. This includes setting goals, staying focused, making sacrifices. It can also be defined as the ability to give up immediate pleasures for long-term goals. So now let me break that down. When you disciplining yourself, you gotta, because this self-discipline is when no one's watching. You see what I'm saying? You don't have like somebody over you. You got to know yourself. This is just for all my older people and just people in general. Once you have self-discipline, you mastered every form of discipline. Self-discipline is very important. You see how it said one's ability to control one's behavior. That's extremely important. You got to control your behavior. That means get rid of all your vices, temptations. Just like you got to be able to really control yourself in anything, like any area and aspect of your life. Like when you're dealing with just anything, like with women, that's for the men, but men dealing, vice versa. And just anything that's gonna throw you off course. So you gotta be able to control your behavior just to achieve a goal, whether that goal is to, like say for instance, like, you're trying to achieve a fitness goal, which I'm, for the most part, because I'm in the fitness, you gotta watch what you eat. Watch what you eat. Make sure you stick to your plans, your goals as far as like what type of exercise you're doing, and like if you want to get down to a certain weight, if you want to achieve a certain physique, you got to know exactly what to do and how to tackle it. So self-control is basically knowing how to stay away from those things that's going to hinder you achieving those goals. Like I said, if it's a fitness goal, you got to watch what you eat. You got to make sure you stay on your diet regimen. And it could be anything else. It could be like just an endeavor. You know what I'm saying? If you want to achieve a certain endeavor, you got to know what it takes to get there and just block out every distraction there is, whether it's people, whether, like I said, it's a way of thinking, and lock in. Lock in, my people. Just lock in. That's discipline, self-discipline when nobody's watching, because your mind is already developed, so you're already a grown person. Nobody's watching. That's when the test comes in. What you got to do when nobody's watching, because nobody's monitoring you. You know what I'm saying? This is not like, when you talk about self-discipline, we're not talking about like something like if you have a trainer. But that goes into that too. We're gonna get to that. You're gonna be, that's the real test when nobody's watching. When nobody's watching. That shows like I said in the other video, mental fortitude. It's self-control when nobody's watching. If you want to achieve a goal and you have self-control, you got to do it when nobody's watching for the most part, because that's when it really counts. That's when it's important, because you're not gonna be, unless you that type of motherfucker that like to be around everybody all the time. But I don't see how that works. How you gonna get things accomplished if you bound around a whole bunch of people all the time? You got to go into isolation. You gotta get it done, man. So like I said, it's actions to achieve a goal or maintain certain standards of conduct. So it's not just achieving goals, it's maintaining a certain standard of conduct. Like you got the way you conduct yourself in everyday life. That's discipline. You know what I'm saying? Your moral compass, it's your conduct when dealing with people, just, you know, and you just gotta stick to a certain standard. Discipline is very important when you conducting yourself in the society, man. If you don't got discipline, then you don't got nothing. I'm not saying you got to be perfect. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. You don't got to be the most disciplined, but if you doing things that's not aligned with your core beliefs, like we said in the earlier video, and values, then you got to get it out of there. So that's very important. Discipline, self-control, self-discipline. So discipline is about internal and external consistencies. So what does that mean? So internal is what? Thinking. Whatever you thinking, you gotta make sure it's positive. You gotta make sure it's aligned with purpose, with your core beliefs. And then that's gonna show out in the external. That's how it works. Internal, external. And they gotta be consistent. So positive thoughts. I know it sounds, cliche, but it's the truth. You always got to be thinking positive, and how you gonna, that thought process, that thought pattern, it got to be consistent with what you're doing on an everyday basis. Like whatever you're accomplishing your goals, like your fitness journey, whatever endeavors you embarking on, it got to be aligned. You got to always be thinking about how that's going to get done. All that other stuff, you got to get it out of there. I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying you got to be perfect and happy. You all got negative thoughts. The best of us. So discipline, like I said, is about internal and external consistencies. You got to be consistent with that. So habits. A life-changing habit enhances health, working life, and quality of life. Habits are established in these 3 stages. 1, trigger, the thing that initiates the behavior. 2, behavior, the action one takes. 3, reward, the benefit one gains from doing the behavior. So you gotta develop good habits. You gotta develop good habits. You know what I'm saying? That will get you into a routine, and that's a form of self-discipline. So what I'm saying, develop good habits. Like I said, it's the thing that initiates the habit, the trigger. What triggers that? Remember what we said in the earlier video about the psychological skills that you build? You gotta know what triggers what. It could be healthy triggers. They don't really gotta see, when people think triggers, they think of something negative. You know what I'm saying? So behavior, the action that one takes, you got to take action. So you got to know what triggers that and then actually act on that. You can't just think about it and not act on it. That's why, like we said earlier, internal and external consistencies. It starts with a thought, then it's actually actualized in your behavior, meaning in real life. You gotta actually do it, and that's where you get the consistency from, and that's where consistency. You can't have discipline without any consistency. It just doesn't make sense. You gotta be consistent. So that's why it says behavior, and then of course you're gonna get a reward. That we all want a reward. You're gonna get a reward, but don't think about the reward. The reward is just a byproduct of your work ethic, your discipline. But you're gonna get a reward. I'm a firm believer in that. Like I'm always living proof, a testament to the core. You know what I'm saying? Like my work is always paying off. So it's always not just hard work. Hard work is important, but any work, as long as it's consistent, is gonna pay off. So you're gonna get the reward. See what I'm saying? So don't always focus on the reward. The reward is gonna come as long as you do what you gotta do. Stay disciplined. So to effectively utilize this three-step process, it is essential to recognize emotional triggers and maintain a consistent reward. It goes back to the reward. It goes back to the triggers. Because there's always going to be something that triggers you emotionally to get you in that mindset. You know what I'm saying? I don't know about you, but me, that statement just made perfect sense. Triggers don't always mean negative. It could mean like maybe something like a dopamine rush. Let's say it like that. When I start working out, it's like a dopamine rush, or even before I start working, it's like a dopamine rush, and that triggers me to keep going. You see what I'm saying? And maintain a consistent thing going through all throughout my workout. See, that keeps me going. That rush, I never tell nobody that, but that keeps me going. That rush right there, that's a trigger right there. So everybody, some people might have different triggers, but me, that's my trigger. Well, anyway, self-discipline is an important principle in several religious systems. We're not gonna get into religion because I don't want to talk your head off with no religion. I'm not really a religious person. I'm more like a spiritual person, but I don't want to talk about religion. But self-discipline is, a factor in religious. Just put it out there like that. Self-discipline is how self-control is gained in the way hope is maintained. So, when you're self-disciplined, you have self-control. They go together. And that's how you always keep, like they always say, keep hope alive. That's that mindset of self-discipline. You keeping the hope because you keep going. So that goal that you have in mind, you're gonna get there because you create, and it's like you always working towards it. So you're hoping on it. But sometimes I don't like to use hope because it kind of sounds cliche and it sounds like just wishing. But I mean, if you want to look at it like that, but at least you're working towards it. So it says the way hope is maintained. So it's going to keep you going. See what I'm saying? So that's very important. Self-control. Gaining self-control involves managing reactions, external events, or outcomes in one's life can never be controlled, yet reactions and attitudes can. So, the way I would like to break that statement down is sometimes, you could do the best you can do, and you were consistent and you had the self-discipline and self-control, but you had a reaction or outcome that wasn't quite what you expected, and that happens all the time. That's where the mastery comes in. That's where the trickery comes in. You gotta still stay on course, and the way you do that is just like I said, you can control your reaction, your attitude towards it. That's one thing you can control. Sometimes you can't control the outcome. That's the way, and it's deeper than what we think is the Most High. So don't get discouraged because you didn't get an outcome that you desired, but keep going and control the way you perceive it and your attitude and your reaction towards it. You see what I'm saying? So think about that. That's another form of self-discipline. That goes into self-discipline too. Knowing how to keep going even if you didn't see a result right away or particular action outcome that you wanted at that time, but you're going to get there. Trust me. So self-control includes avoiding impulsivity, eating disorders, and addictive behaviors. So that means like just acting irrational, like impulsive, like quick to react about something because you didn't get your way or whatever the case may be. And then a lot of people, they go into, this is how people get, obese, and their body just get way out of shape, like eating disorders. A lot of people, they overeat because they stressed out and they don't have enough discipline and enough mental fortitude to know how to navigate around that. So they just do what, like you said, impulsive. Let me just eat this. I'm stressed, so let me just eat. And then next thing you know, they looking like fucking, I don't know what. We're not going to get too vulgar on here, but, you got to learn how to control what you eat, man. No matter what's going on in your life, you want to control everything you do. Don't be impulsive, and it said addictive behaviors. So it could be, doing drugs or whatever you get addicted to, because no addiction is good. I don't care what anybody says. No addiction, you're not supposed to be addicted to anything. Too much of anything is not good. Especially, like drugs and eating, all that shit. You get destroyed. But anyway, there's 4 strategies to self-control. So it's situation selection, avoiding situations where one will be likely to confront temptations. That's important. I like that because that's really strategic. That's really psychological, because it's like this. It goes into more like emotional regulation too. So it says situation selection, avoiding situations where one likely to confront temptation. So if you go to this place or be around this certain individual where they're at and is gonna tempt you to do something, don't put yourself in that environment. Just use your head a little bit. Don't put yourself in that environment. That's common sense. But no matter how much we say that, people are still going to do it. Avoid it altogether. because you got to know what that goes into self-awareness. You got to know what triggers you, know the environments where that's going to facilitate that type of thing that you need to stay away from. Just avoid it altogether. So 2, situation modification, doing what one can to reduce the pull of the temptation in the situation that arise. So that's a little bit more intricate. See, the first one, you could just avoid it altogether. Still smart, but let's say if for whatever reason you can't avoid it, for whatever reason, you just in that situation, you got to know how to navigate around that. Like, know what, if you're in that situation where you know you're going to be tempted or you're going to be triggered, know how to respond to it in that situation. It's easier said than done, but that's where the self-awareness comes in. Like, you just got to know you just got to know yourself. You just got to know what to do and what not to do in that situation, so you won't lose your self-control. You won't just lose yourself. If you can't avoid the situation, you got to learn how to maneuver on it. That's why it says modification, situation modification. So let me give you an example. Say you around some people and these are people that might be associates or just people that but their energy is not really aligned with you, and sometimes they say things that might trigger things. That goes with being self-aware, that might trigger certain emotions. And there's always a way where sometimes you can't avoid them because maybe it's at work or something. You got to make your money. In those situations, know how to limit your interaction with them, or when you do interact with them, and there's nothing really you could do, just learn how to ignore it. There's really no rhyme or reason to it. Just limit your interaction with them and then learn how to ignore it. Don't let it get to you like that, because you have this certain situations you can't avoid because like I said, sometimes it might be a job, it might be at a job. You have to make your money. You know what I'm saying? However you make your money, you got certain things you got to do what you got to do. But that's my best advice. Just limit your interaction with them, and then just ignore their triggers. Ignore what they're saying that that's going to trigger you. You just got to think about it like that. There's really no way best way I can explain it. So that would be the second one. Distraction. Trying to distract oneself with better alternatives. That's a good strategy too. There's always better alternatives. And then that's going to always open your mind to just different things. Like, damn, I could choose this. This is going to be a better result. I could choose that. I don't need to take this. Always choose the better thing that's not going to harm you. So if it's something like food or whatever the case may be, if it's there and you're tempted by it, think about it like that. I'm going to choose this. This is going to have a better effect on my body. I don't got to eat this shit. I'm just eating because my mind is telling me to eat it. But your mind always going to play tricks on you. Choose the better option. That's going to distract you from the stuff that's detrimental. If you channel it that way. all this stuff is your mind. Like you gotta learn how to channel your mind a certain way. Like even in the midst of temptation, like if it's there, sometimes you can't avoid it. And so the way you perceive it, the way you think about it. So 4, appraisal, changing the way one thinks about a bad habit. It all goes back to what I was saying, the way you think about it. It's always the way you think. You gotta break out of ways of thinking. That's another form of self-discipline and self-control. So changing the way you think about the bad habit. You understand? So that's the 4 stages. So we're going to go into another form of discipline briefly, but the one we just mentioned, that's why that wasn't so brief. But I always tell you it's always a brief synopsis, but I went into depth with the self-discipline and self-control. So now we're going to go into another category, which is, like I said, brief. Child discipline is the methods used to prevent future unwanted behavior in children. And we all know that because we always all want children, and some of us, we have children. And that's basically, some people, they might spank their children to prevent them from doing something that they don't want to do. But me, I don't really condone that. I'm on the fence with that. I don't really say I don't condone, but not too much of that, because that ain't really gonna. That's not a proven method to work for the most part. But I mean, I can't really tell people how to raise their children. So, positive discipline is a discipline model used by some schools and in parenting that focuses on the positive points of behavior. See, that's a good method to use and a good focus on, instead of you putting belt to ass. You focus on what are the positive points of behavior. You see what I'm saying? And that's gonna have you formulating certain things. Like, you're not really so focused on physical. You're just thinking like, how can I get this child to behave better if I focus on the positive points of their behavior? But you so focus on the negative that's good, but you gotta look at the child behavior, the positive child behavior. And then try to, bring that to the children's attention. Don't always focus on that negative behavior. That's what it's talking about. So, school discipline relates to actions taken by teachers or school organizations towards students when their behavior disrupts the ongoing education activity or break a rule created by school. We all heard that before. Like, if you disrupting the classroom, then the teacher gotta take action. You see what I'm saying? Because now, not only is it affecting you and the teacher, it's affecting everybody else around you. So you gotta have some type of disciplinary action, and that could be anything. That could be, suspending them. That could be, putting them in detention or whatever. You know how it is in school. They got all type of disciplinary methods for kids to stay on the right track. So, school system sets rules, and if students break these rules, they're subject to discipline. The term discipline is applied to the action that is the consequence of breaking the rules. So, discipline is used in different ways. It, like we said, it could be your self-control, your conduct, or it can be a result of your conduct. So you gotta, discipline is very important. Like you gotta have discipline, and then if you don't do what you're supposed to do, then you are gonna get disciplined. Even adults, because the Most High disciplines us all the time when we don't do what we're supposed to do. So, and that's it, man. There we have it. Discipline. Touched on self-control, self-discipline, child discipline, school discipline, and all the aspects of discipline and how you need it to operate and enhance your life. You know what I'm saying? Discipline is very important. That goes hand in hand with mental fortitude. You see how everything is in connection, everything is aligned with all these topics that are discussed in these videos. They go together. You know what I'm saying? There's no particular order, but you notice how they all got a connection to them. So self-discipline, mental fortitude, all of that goes together. So we're going to close out on it. Hope this video was informative, and closing out. Olo.